Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Beebe.
Today we have with us Dorothy Martin Neville. I'm so sorry for that. PhD. She is a pioneering leader in energy medicine and integrative health. With over 20 years as a psychotherapist, she created the WISE method and founded a 4-year healing institute with international reach. After a life-changing move to the Caribbean, she embraced personal healing and transformation. Later, she returned to the US to lead groundbreaking research in energy medicine, co-chairing national initiatives, and teaching at medical schools. Now, she supports leaders across industries, guiding them with insights from mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and quantum mechanics to achieve success, resilience, and fulfillment in both personal and professional realms. Welcome, Dorothy, to Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Beebe.
Hi, Doctor. Thank you so very, very much. It's a great joy to be here with you.
That it's my honor. It's absolutely my honor to have you with us and to be one of the first, almost one of the first people who I am interviewing for this program. So it's just amazing to have you here with us. Let me start with there are a whole lot of things here which resonate so much with me. First and foremost, before even I ask the first question, emotional intelligence, that ticks the box.
Yeah.
Uh, Mindfulness ticks the box. Healing, transformation ticks the box. There is so much leadership development ticks the box. There's so much that is common and so many places that we have that we can talk about. I think we can cross half an hour or even more. We can cross 1 hour, if not more. So half an hour is going to be very, very little time. So let's start with defining your guiding principles. What is your mantra?
Is how can I be of service? That is absolutely my mantra. How can I be of service?
And when did you adopt this mantra?
I would say I adopted this as a young child. I adopted this when I was 6 or 7 years old. I was raised in an orphanage. And then when I was adopted, I was brought to the home of people living in the housing projects in the inner city. And there was so much need that my thought is, how could I be of service here? And without realizing it, I was setting my mantra for the rest of my life. So, how can I be of service? How can I help those who are in pain emotionally, spiritually, or physically? How can I help them step out of the pain, create a new paradigm, and begin to live a life they never imagined was possible?
Absolutely. And I think this kind of a thought comes from, is rooted in gratitude. You must have been very grateful for having been adopted.
I
Am I
was
assuming
immense.
right?
I was immensely grateful. Unfortunately, I was adopted into an Irish alcoholic, very violent home. But for the first time in my life, I had brothers and sisters. So I have been blessed to this day. Before speaking to you, one of my brothers just texted me. Another brother and I are having lunch on Friday. I take one of my brothers out who's retired every Sunday, every week for, I'm sorry, once a month for dinner and drinks and dinner and just to visit with my brother who happens to live about an hour and a half away because everybody else is on the eastern seaboard of the United States. So he's the closest. So I feel so blessed. And this other brother was saying, I wish I could join the two of you because you two always have fun. And without being adopted, I never would have had all these brothers and sisters throughout my entire life. I'm truly, truly blessed. So although the home itself was not a place any child should grow up in, I was blessed with exquisite brothers and sisters. So it has been a blessing. It truly has.
So I think it is to some extent the home that actually brought you all together. And the adverse conditions, must have, united you all to help each other out, support each other, and be there for each other. And that's what's continued. It's so lovely to hear this.
Yeah, it truly did. We all made it out together. Yeah.
Yep, that's what I hear. And I would also like to know, uh, somewhere before, we spoke about personal healing and transformation. If you would, if you're comfortable talking more about that.
Certainly. I've been around long enough to have several. you know? So there have been many. My experience has been for most of us who truly live this life and don't survive it, is that probably every 10 years or so, there is some transformational moment that takes you to the next level of self-awareness. You're called to step into the next paradigm. You're called to reshift how you see things. You're called to reshift how you view the world, how you view your place in the world, and so forth. And there have been so many that, to me, I could go through them, but there's not a lot of benefit in that. But one was when I finally made it out of that home. I wanted to go to, I never knew a woman in the inner city. There's no money. So women, nobody really tends to go to college, much less women. Women would be the last option. And I tried to go to nursing school and couldn't because we discovered I had an unaccredited inner city high school. So no nursing school in the United States could accept me. And I was supposed to just get married. You graduate from high school in May if you're one of the few who make it to graduation, because not everybody does. And if you do, you graduate in May and you get married in June. So at 17, you start making children and have 10 or 20 children, and that's your life. And I was blessed to have been born with a drive that I wanted to have a far greater impact on the planet. I wanted to have a far greater impact to help people really live their life and not survive it, because so many of the people I grew up around were surviving. And something in my soul, in my essence, whatever the word is for you, whatever your faith system, there's something within me that knew there is so much more to this world than surviving. And so that awareness, I was engaged to be married to it. I was 17 years old, but I wanted more, and I couldn't go to school, couldn't go to college, couldn't go to nursing school. And so I ended up realizing that in order to have the greatest impact, the irony of that is I became a Catholic nun because they did social work, and I wanted to do social work. I wanted to support people. And by putting on this long black habit that nuns used to wear, when Mother Superior said, I'm sending you to college, we have a different name when you enter religious life. My name became Sister James Marie. And so Sister James Marie was able to go to college when Dorothy Martin couldn't. And so as Sister James Marie, I got a college degree, and the rest is history. So there are so many experiences, and I think if we choose to be open to them, we see miracles happening all the time. But we have to be willing to see them. A dear friend of mine, Larry Falwell, now recently wrote a book called The Science of Creating Miracles. He is somebody who deals in quantum physics. He got 3 of his degrees from Harvard, and he has done work around the globe dealing with looking at brain vibration and quantum physics and quantum mechanics and how things shift and change. And I truly believe we've got the ability to create miracles all the time if we're open to it. When we sit and know nothing's going to happen, you're right. When we know anything can happen, you're right. Right? So why not change your energetic vibration and your openness to the reality that if I'm open to anything is possible, then truly anything is, right? It's been how I've lived much of my life.
Oh, you have opened another chapter then that I need to know a little more about. So what happened when you were a sister? James Marie? Is
Correct. Yeah.
Yep. Sister James Marie, how was her life?
Exquisite. It was
Okay.
exquisite. I didn't realize when I was in high school, I spent a lot of time in detention after class, you know, and so I didn't think nuns went to detention, but more than once I would hear, Sister James Marie, Mother Superior would like to see you. And I knew I did something wrong yet again. However, it was always innocent. It was never anything bad. It was always pure innocence, and I'm a vibrant, passionate person, so it was usually something that my outrageousness got me in trouble yet again. But it was an experience in which, for the first time in my life, I was physically safe. For the first time in my life, nobody was being beaten up or whipped or abused. For the first time in my life, there were no gangs outside the window. And so it was a blessing beyond words to discover a me that I never knew existed. I had spent so much of my previous years protecting my brothers and sisters and my mother that at this point I had nobody to protect, so I had me. So I discovered a me I never knew existed. I had discovered a me that was really an amazing young woman that I never noticed. And it was absolutely transformational. And it was an exquisite gift. You know, eventually, what I realized was, because I kept getting into more trouble and because I kept getting called to Mother Superior's office, I realized that for me, there was a choice of being a good human, a good Christian, or being a good nun. That being a good nun, they follow all the rules. Being a good Christian, you see somebody in need and you go do it. Where the good nuns should or shouldn't do it because it was after hours, because it was with the man, or because it was with a boy child, because it was with something that good nuns didn't do. That's an absolutely insane concept. If somebody's in need, you go. That's just what you do. And because I realized if I stayed inside, I'd always be in trouble, and I would be causing trauma for all these poor Mother Superiors in all the other houses. So why not give them a break? I could leave and go live another life and let them be at peace. So I left and I went back to the projects where I grew up, and my friends were dead or in prison or on welfare. And I had nothing in common with them because at that point I had been a social worker. I had worked in residential treatment. I had developed a self that never ever existed before. And I thought, I want to see the world. I've never seen the world. I grew up in the inner city, so I never traveled more than a couple miles from my house. And in religious life, we were secluded. We only spoke an hour a day. We rarely went anywhere. The professors came to our school to teach us. We didn't go out with the lay people. And so I thought, I want to see the world. So I moved to Manhattan in New York City and became an international airline stewardess. And I traveled over 1,000,000 miles around the globe to many countries and discovered the exquisite beauty of this world. That every country has a different type of beauty. Every country has different architecture, has different geography, has different everything. The earth is different, the trees are different, the soil is different, the food is different. That what a blessing to experience so many different cultures, so many different countries, so many different people, and realizing that although the customs may vary immensely, we're all one. We are all brothers and sisters throughout the planet. And it doesn't matter whether one is older or younger, one is darker or lighter, one is this faith or that faith. It's all irrelevant. We're brothers and sisters who grew up in a particular culture. The culture doesn't define us. The culture only helps us create a paradigm. And if we're open to shifting and changing our paradigms, we begin to see that we're all one in this entire planet. So it was a blessing beyond words to travel so extensively and see the beauty of people and the earth and the trees and the architecture and the food. All of it was a gift. Yeah.
So, just because I come from a very different culture and a very different background, may I ask what are the various cultures that you were exposed to?
Oh my goodness. And in Germany, I went to Munich and Mainz and Frankfurt. Both of those are very different, right there, just within one country, too. And in Switzerland, you have Zurich and Geneva, one German, one French, very different cultures, right? So there was, and then throughout Europe and Hawaii and the Caribbean. I've spoken in 9 different countries, and they say, well, it's just the Caribbean, but no, there's the French Caribbean, there's the British Caribbean, there's the American Caribbean, there is the Dutch Caribbean, there's the Spanish Caribbean, and they're all, they may be small islands, but they're different countries, it's different cultures, there's similarities, but there's also large differences, right? And so whether it's all over all of the countries of Europe and Israel and others, that we're just different and yet not,
Okay,
you know.
so you touched upon food, and I would definitely like to know what are the other dishes or other gourmet or other cuisines that you have eaten, which were your favorite ones, not the American, but the other cuisines.
Yeah, oh my goodness. I don't think there's one country I've been to that I didn't love something in. I love food. I love wine. In the Caribbean, it's rum. And up here in America, it could be anything, but I'm more wine up here in America. And in Europe, different countries of Europe. But the food, France is very much, one part of France is very cream based, you know. One part of Italy is cream based, another is more tomato based, so it depends. It depends on the country you're in, because the beauty of it is every country, even Italy, Sicily eats dramatically different than Rome, which eats very different than Milan, which, so there's many. But with that also, food just reflects different cultures, right? So I'm talking one country, but there are 3 very different cultures. And that would just as in
Absolutely.
America, there are very different cultures. California is dramatically different from where I live in Connecticut, which is very different from Mississippi. How we eat is dramatically different. How we speak is dramatically different. How we were raised is dramatically different. So it's really being open to open to trying new cultures, open to trying new foods, open to trying exposing yourself to different faiths, to going into temples, going into mosques, going into different churches, going into all of it. All of it to me is walking. If you're willing to walk through this world in awe, you will be awed by the beauty that exists everywhere.
Totally agree with you. How did you then? So then you did become a nurse.
Oh no, I became a social worker,
You
and
became a social worker,
yeah,
but then,
yeah, and after I left social work, I became an international airline stewardess. And when I left
okay,
that, I stayed home for about 7 years and was a mom. And then I got divorced and I had to go back to work to support my babies, and I became a psychotherapist. So I was seeing
okay.
42 patients a week for years, but about 3 years into seeing 42 patients a week, my mind, I'm curious. I'm extremely curious and inquisitive about everything. So I started noticing patterns, that certain personalities presented with this disease, this personality presented with this disease, an autoimmune disease, this personality presented with this type of cancer, this personality with that type of cancer. And when I asked friends who were medical doctors, have you noticed certain personality constraints in some of your patients? No, 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 it's all coincidental. I knew it was not coincidental. If I could predict it, it's not coincidence. I highly encourage curiosity, because curiosity, questioning is one of the greatest gifts we can bring to the world, because it's why we invent things, it's why we learn, why we are filled with passion, right, to discover new things rather than staying the same. Let's keep growing, let's keep moving, let's keep expanding. And so when they all said to me it's coincidental, give it up, I thought, oh my God, I could never. And so I went and I became certified in 9 modalities of integrative healthcare, 5 of which was in Eastern medicine, iridology, discussing the eyes, learning about the iris and how it reflects systemic and organic function or dysfunction in the body, and acupressure and acupuncture, and so on and so forth. And so by the time I finished 9, I saw that some was repetitive and value and awareness. So I took the best of all of them, combined it with my life experience, and created my own modality based on my work as a therapist and what I was seeing in my office, combining. And of course, it was my perspective. Somebody else may have looked at those 9 and pulled something different out of it. So I can only tell you about my experience, what I pulled out of all of them rich, all of them wonderful, but pulling out pieces, combining it. And again, not thinking, gee, I think I want to be a pioneer. I just was called to pull out and combine and come up with something. And I started doing it. And I was blessed with a 6-month waiting list in my practice that lasted throughout my entire practice for 20 plus years. And people on my waiting list said, teach us what you know while we're waiting to work with you one-to-one. And I created a 6-week course. They loved it. And I realized, oh, I was newly divorced. This was income from my babies. I could help support my babies. I have 2 children. And I thought, oh, I'll do this again. And some of the same group came the second time and then the third time. And I said, why do you keep coming? Although there's lots of new people, why do you keep coming? Because you teach a different class all the time. You keep adding well, people ask different questions. You ask a different question, I'm going to give you an answer that I didn't give to those people because they didn't ask that particular question. I wasn't hiding information. It's just, when you have this much information and this much time, what are you going to fit in, right? And although I had the same outline, you meet the student body when you teach, to meet your class where it is. So they were all different. So I opened up a formal program. To make a long story short, it became a 4-year program in energy medicine, where I taught physicians and nurses and occupational therapists, physical therapists, massage therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, lay people who wanted to be healers, a huge eclectic population from all over the United States, from Australia, from Canada, from the Caribbean, from many different places. And it just went, which absolutely surprised me. In my 3rd and 4-year programs, students required to do medical internships. And if they were affiliated with the hospital, they had to do it at a hospital they weren't affiliated with. So now I went from just me teaching this class to the school becoming so big. I had teachers, I had TAs, I had preceptors overseeing the medical internship programs, because we had different contracts with different hospitals and medical facilities and many different places. And one woman can't do it all. So you have to learn how to be an effective leader to have an effective team. And I had full-time employees, and which is one issue because you're doing here in Social Security, you're doing medical benefits, dental benefits, you're doing 401k match, you're doing all kinds of, workman's compensation, unemployment tax, you're doing lots of things. And then I had a bunch of 1099s who were people that just work with you on a part-time basis. You write a check and they're done. So I had to learn how to be a businesswoman. I had to learn how to be a leader because now I've got all these people working under me. So as we grow and we take chances on expanding us and expanding our calling and living our life purpose, we're called to do different things we never imagined. It's so funny, in your innocence at 25 or 30, you think you know. And then you discover 35, you don't have a clue. And then you discover 35, I don't have a clue about this. At 40, I don't have a clue about this. At 50, oh my God, there's so much I don't know. And you just keep growing and learning, and God willing. Some people know they know everything and they stop at 20, all right? But those who are willing to keep growing and expanding, you keep realizing all the things you don't know. To me, that makes life so much fun. That makes life so exciting. Because when you're willing to keep growing and learning, it's endless. It's endless, the call to jump in and truly be alive and experience this diverse world that's out here for us,
And so with this, what would be, so you were leading, once you became transformed rather into a businesswoman, that's when you were actually had a vision to follow. Like when you have a company, you have to have a vision, a mission, and you must have led your people into it. What was your leading mantra? What was that mantra?
Everybody in my organization has a gift I don't have. So on Wednesday mornings, we would meet in my office. There would be 9 of us or 10 of us, 9 employees myself, or depending on 7 employees, depending on the time frame as we expanded, full-time people. I had about 40 part-time positions, but these full-timers. And I would meet and say, this is my thought for the week. This is my plan. This is where we're going. This is where we're going to do open houses. This is what we're going to be teaching. This is what's studying. I want your feedback. And new people were frightened to give me feedback because I might be mad, I might be disappointed, I might be something. But those who had been working with me would say, hey, I think that's a great idea. What if we changed this and we did this? Have you thought about adding this and said that? Oh, my God, I never would have added that. What a great idea. My mind was going this way. You came in from over here. I never would have thought about that. What a great addition. Somebody else would say, that's an okay idea, but what if we did it this way? It's like, oh my God, then both of us would say, whoa, they didn't come up with an idea, but they have a way of taking an established idea and enhancing it. And so everybody brought in something so that by the time the meeting was over, what I had presented was the foundation, but it was expanded and enriched in ways I never could have done on my own. And so it really is recognizing that they weren't wrong. Not every idea passed the muster, not every idea was great because they didn't understand the financial implications or the social implications or the value implications that would come out of that. But the vast majority, oh my goodness, because they had all graduated from my school, so they all knew my mindset, they had a similar mindset. So our values were generally right in alignment. And that's the most important piece. When you hire as a leader, you can always teach somebody a skill they don't have. You cannot teach a value system people don't want. So as a leader, you recognize if you have a similar value system, it doesn't have to be identical, but a similar value system to mine, I can teach you what I need from you. But if I'm about bringing everybody up together and you're about being the expert and you don't hear from anybody, and I hire you, there is going to be such discord in the organization. The team is going to fragment into fors and against. The team is going to be threatened and challenged. So if we don't have the same value system, no matter how qualified you are for the job, the task I need, you're the wrong person. Not that you're bad. You're going to fit beautifully in an organization that's run that way. But that wasn't my organization. So it's also developing the skill of not hiring people that you know have so much to offer, but that they wouldn't fit in, as well as having to let people go who, for whatever reason, shifted and changed while they were with you because of outside, because of a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband or a wife or whatever the reasoning. And you realize whatever happened, we no longer fit. So that's that. I don't know any leader who says, I love firing people. You know, it's much more of there are parts of every job that we don't want to do. But if your business is if your business is living your life purpose, if your business is living what you came here to do on the planet, your business becomes what you truly need to feed, what you truly need to enrich, which means you have to be willing to do what's best for the business. Because it's not you. Yes, we want to make tons of money. I want to make tons of money. The more money I make, the more money I can give away. The more money I make, the more people I can impact and influence, right? So I want the money, but what's more important is I want to work in an environment that feeds my soul or feeds my essence, whatever your faith system, that feeds the essence of who I am. Because if that's fed, I've got everything I need to have to keep me in emotional intelligence, to keep me out of defense, to keep me in mindfulness so that I'm absolutely present. I'm not thinking about what you're going to be doing to me this afternoon that I'm going to have to deal with. I'm here in the moment because I've created a team, I've created a company where, yeah, problems show up. They are welcome to humanity, but they're all workable because we have the same value system and we're all working towards the same vision of how we are going to have impact and influence in the world to make this world a better place. Without them, there are just issues that cause all of us to grow, because dealing with issues cause you to become more resilient, to be more adaptable, to call you to have another perspective. It calls you to keep growing. So they're not difficulties. They're just issues that show up. that are causing all of us as a team to grow a little bit further, or perhaps me as a leader to grow a little bit further, you know?
Uh-huh. I hear you and I reflect with you. So many points that you have just said. And I hope that our listeners are listening, and our viewers are actually going to pick up these things when they start thinking about how they lead. I would like to ask you, what would be your legacy? I can see, I know there's a wise method. And what would be
Right.
your legacy as a leader? How would you like to be known as a leader?
I would like to be known as a leader who called everyone I worked with, whether as a coaching client, as an employee, as a friend, that I called everybody to live their best and wildest self, that I gave a hand up to everybody I knew to become their most vibrant and best self so that they can live the purpose of why they came onto the earth at this time. And that to me, if I have those people saying, as many of my people have done, you showed me a self I never knew existed. You know, the more I can do that to leaders of major organizations, I realize that with all the physicians or nurses or psychologists or whomever that went through my school, by giving them a whole new paradigm in life, I impacted the thousands of people each one of them were going to work with over the course of their careers. So that now, as an executive coach, by supporting executives coming into the essence of who they are with their life purpose, to let go of the defenses, let go of needing to prove how competent they are, let go of needing to prove how tough they are, and all of those stories that we create as leaders. If I could support them and recognize that the greatest value they bring is the essence of who they are, because if they call to leadership, they just need to develop the skills. They already have them. They're just developing skills they already possess. Then what I am doing as well is impacting the thousands of people that will work for them over the course of their career. So to me, by working with leaders, I have, as a coach, as a teacher, as a confidant, I have the ability to impact tens of thousands of people by working with one. And so I would love it to be, those others don't need to know me. My name isn't important, but I would love to know that by working with that one leader, I impacted that organization. I impacted all those he's worked, his vendors, his customers, his employees, that I helped him or her create a paradigm that was about service. It wasn't about control. It wasn't about success, whatever on earth that's supposed to mean. But it was about having great impact and influence to help make this world a better place.
Yeah, makes sense. A lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge, which I'm trying to wrap up as much as possible within the little time that I'm sharing with you. Uh, how would our listeners and our viewers connect with you?
They could go to my website, askdrdorothy.com, askdrdorothy.com, or send me an email, Dorothy, Dorothy, at askdrdorothy.com. I'm
All
always here,
right.
right?
Lovely. I have learned a lot from you right now within this little time that I had. I was just regretting that, could I go back and instead of having done my PhD, I should have come here and done the WISE method. Maybe that would have reflected more with me because here I am having created something myself. And I'm thinking, okay, so there is somebody else who's created something else. And yours is full-fledged done, and mine is fledgling. So that's the difference. So I'm also trying to build something, and this is so lovely to find somebody else who's created something. I'm curiosity to the hilt. And I understand when you say being curious, looking around. I even play around with apps and then I, make a mess out of it sometimes, which I have to unmess and learn. So there are a whole lot of things.
I
I
know you
understand
mean.
the flip side of being curious, especially with technology, when you do something that, is not given in the manual and says follow the steps. And I thought, what happens if I do this instead of that? And then there it goes. So here I totally hear you, and I totally, totally understand what it is to be curious, but also that being curious keeps us going and shows a
Yes,
very, very different world. I have
very
lived
much.
in 2 countries. I have lived in 4 cities. I've traveled across, of course, many of the countries that you mentioned. So I do understand, and I totally, totally agree with you. There's so much to learn with so much diversity. Thank you,
Oh,
Dorothy, for being with us and for spending your valuable time with us. I would like to stay connected with you, and I will get in touch with you again, maybe again.
please do, and thank you. And congratulations to you on completing your doctorate. That is not an easy process. So congratulations for you for sticking to it, for achieving a dream and a goal you had. Whatever our dreams and goals, you went for it and you did it. And I know darn well, I don't know the specifics, but I know it wasn't always easy. And yet,
Totally
you did
agree.
it. More
Totally
than once,
agree.
I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. But you stayed with it. Congratulations to you.
Thank
And
you.
good luck, new venture. My goodness, I'm so happy for you. Follow it. If this is where your heart calls you, follow it and you'll succeed enormously.
I hope so. I hope, it's little steps at a time, taken, measured steps.
The best. Little steps are the best steps, right? Because they make us walk assuredly rather than running and finding out we have no foundation. You're doing it in a wonderful way. Congratulations to you. And thank you so very much for tonight. This has been
Thank
a
you.
joy.
Thank you. It was absolute pleasure having you with me here.
God bless.
Thank you.